What is going on, somebody like you crew? Today's podcast is an awesome one. It's just me, solo, talking about how to do the things you need to do when you don't have the juice to do those things. I talk about the imaginary meetings I have with the best version of myself. I talk about all of the tips and tricks of doing one thing at a time and all of that stuff. I'm really pumped about this one. It's one of my favorite solo ones that I've done. So give it a listen and be sure to listen to the ad coming up here from the Nickerson Institute because that is where I'm doing my integrative health training and getting certified. So enjoy the episode. Love you. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, all those wonderful things because it helps me tremendously. Chat with you soon.
Are you ready to embark on a journey of holistic mental health training? The Nickerson Institute of Integrative Health Training could be the next transformative step on your path. Nickerson Institute's accredited 200-hour program provides the knowledge and tools you'll need to become a professional integrative mental health coach. From mind-body connections, neuropsychology, spirituality, energy psychology, and beyond. With Dr. Nickerson's guidance and support, you'll learn motivational interviewing, attunement, cognitive behavioral coaching, and trauma-informed care to truly connect with your clients so you can help them in bringing about sustainable results. In this accredited hybrid format program, you can work through the videos and core content at your own pace and engage with Dr. Nickerson and other trainees live in bi-weekly discussions and presentations. Beyond the Certified Mental Health Coach Training Program, Nickerson Institute also offers courses and programs for corporate coaching, continuing education, and personal development. Whether you're a healthcare professional, a wellness enthusiast, or someone thinking about a career in coaching, consider the Nickerson Institute of Integrative Health Training for the next transformative step on your path. To learn more and download the full brochure, visit www.nickersoninstitute.com.
What is happening, Somebody Like You crew? Welcome to the Somebody Like You podcast, where today we are chatting about how to get shit done when you don't have it in the tank to get shit done. I often refer to it as not feeling like I have any juice. Juice is, we'll describe it as energy. We'll describe it as that oomph, the power to get things done. And when you don't have the juice, the power, the oomph to get things done, how do you get things done throughout the day? That is the big question. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because today I woke up not knowing what I was going to talk about on the podcast. I woke up today not having any juice. I was even putting it on Instagram. I was even saying, like, follow me because I don't have, follow me on my journey today, not follow me on my page. Follow me on my journey today because I'm going to show you what I do when I don't have any juice. And that was kind of what brought me to this topic today. Was this morning I woke up feeling like I was starting to get sick. I was starting to feel like I was just going to take the day. I had so much to do, but I'm like, I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it. Raise your hand if you can, if you're listening to the live recording or the follow up. Raise your hand if you understand that feeling. I'll just push it off. I'll do it tomorrow and make tomorrow 10 times more chaotic than it is today. Welcome to my world. Good morning to everyone joining. Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you are listening. I'm so happy to have you here. And when you don't have any juice, when you're looking to get shit done, how do you get shit done when you don't feel like it? Here's the special sauce. Here's the secret ingredient. Do one thing at a time. One thing at a time. And I understand that sounds so easy. I understand that you hear it all the time, but do you often practice it? Do you practice that thing when it gets tough? When you're doing one thing at a time, when you're doing just the one thing. So for instance, this morning I woke up and I slept in a little bit later because I was like, you know what, the body needs to rest. And I had to write, record, and create a video for I'm in school to be get certified as an integrative mental health coach, right? Sharpening the tools in my tool belt. So there I'm working with them to create content for them a couple times a week. So I had to create the script, I had to write it, all this stuff. And of course, in typical Somebody Like You fashion, what I did was wait to the last possible minute to do all of the things. And then when I don't have any juice, it just becomes almost crippling, right? So what did I do? Put my shoes on is number one. Put my shoes on because anybody out there who is living with an attention deficit disorder or hyper disorder, you understand that when you have shoes on and you are working from home, you are 100 times more productive. So what I did was I put some shoes on and I said, we're just going to get this one thing done. We're going to get the script done and we're going to do the audio recording. I blocked out everything else. I didn't care that I had a podcast today. I didn't care that I had to edit. I didn't care that I had to go work out, get my movement in. I didn't care that I had to do coaching calls. I see all these things when you think about them back to back to back to back. It is crippling. But when I said to myself, I just have to write and record this. That's all I need to do today. Okay, let's see how fast we can get that done. We did. We sat down, wrote the script, found something we good, recorded it a couple times. Didn't feel great the first couple recordings, but at this time, I'm starting to flow a little bit. I'm starting to shake off that rust. That it's almost like rust, crust, whatever we want to call it. You're almost like kind of breaking out of like that morning shell a little bit. You're like, okay, I need to just move. I'm starting to get into a groove a little bit. So when you're feeling that way, remember, just start doing the one thing you said you're going to start doing. Don't worry about everything else. And then from there, what I started noticing was my mind starts taking over, momentum starts taking over. So when you're doing these things, remember that in the beginning, nobody wants to. It's like when you're starting to run, right? If you're an aspiring runner like myself, you realize the first, like, I don't know, 100 yards, your body is still cold. Your body doesn't know that it's in for the next like 3 or 4 miles. So it's starting to tell you it hurts. It's starting to tell you it gets really tired. It's starting to tell you that you don't want to be doing this. And then all of a sudden, a half mile in, you still don't want to be doing it, but your body starts feeling a little bit better. Your lungs start adapting. Your body starts warming up. The juice starts flowing. The blood gets flowing. Same thing when you're doing these tasks, just one thing at a time. You start breaking out of that shell and you start feeling like you can do this now. Now, all of a sudden, I'm fully immersed in the things I'm doing. I wish I would have got things done the first try, but I didn't. So I was like, all right, well, I want to correct that. All of a sudden, I start going, I recorded just my audio in my GarageBand on my Mac. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, I start kind of getting involved and I start getting into it. It starts feeling better. I start finding some pitches that I like. I start finding things that make my voice sound a little bit better, whatever. I go, okay, well, now I'm feeling better. So when you do these things, all of a sudden, now you're just building up this momentum. Now I want to edit the video. I didn't have to edit the video until later today, but I was like, well, I'm here. I got that done so much faster. And remember this, when you focus on one thing at a time, you are going to get these things done so much faster than your mind ever thought you would. I got this recording done in maybe writing the script, getting the recording done in maybe like 20, 30 minutes. And that's about on par for that process. If I find a script I like and, I'm really putting my effort into it, that's about on par. So what I did there was felt good about it. I was like, well, now I got time. Might as well edit, right? Do you see how the positive momentum starts building up? Now that's one thing. And when I say we're doing one thing at a time, I know I have all of these other things to do. Like right now, I'm like, wow, you have a lot to do still. And I'm on the podcast. This is one of the things that's just one thing at a time. But when I'm fully immersed in the one thing I'm doing, those other things don't exist. We all have things to do today. We're all going to have things to do tomorrow if we're lucky, right? So remember, when you just focus on the one thing at a time, you're going to put all of your attention, all of your focus into that one thing. Time's going to stand still. That's how much you're going to pay attention to this one thing. Time doesn't exist. You're not constrained by this time requirement that you have on the rest of the day. So one thing at a time. If you're at working a 9 to 5 or whatever hours you might be, and you feel like your boss or your team or everybody has so many things being thrown at you, remember this. It is one thing at a time. I feel like growing up, we were taught like multitasking and doing so many things at once. Juggling all these things was like a superpower that we have. Do you know how much we screw things up when we're doing that kind of stuff? Especially, I can speak for myself. Um, so remember, you are physically able just to do one thing at full capacity at a time. Do that because once you knock that off, you're building up momentum. That next thing is going to be a little bit easier. That next thing is going to be a little bit easier. By the end of the day, you're going to realize that by just focusing on one thing at a time, you got so much more done than when you would have just thought of how much do I have to get done today? How am I going to accomplish it all? You're going to accomplish as much as you can if you just focus on one thing at a time. Sometimes we get a little analysis or paralysis by analysis because we don't know where to start. Just start something. Like I said, for me, it's putting my shoes on. When I put my shoes on, it's almost kind of like, okay, that's signaling to my mind, I'm ready. I'm ready to do something. Now I need to almost check in with myself. What is that thing that I want to do? What is that thing that I'm being called to do? Sometimes we can put things off and then scold ourselves the entire time. And those tasks that we're probably beating ourselves up over probably takes a maximum of 15 minutes. We put it off and put ourselves down probably for days. And it's usually a thing that takes 15 minutes to accomplish on average, right? That's not a Harvard study or anything. That's a somebody like you special study. Um, and I think a big part of this entire process is being kind to yourself, because once you start that negative vortex, that negative cycle of bashing yourself and saying, I'm never going to get this done, I can't do this, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm all of these things, which you very well may be in the present moment. Give yourself a little bit of love. Be like, you know what? I am stressed. I am feeling anxious. If my best friend was stressed and anxious, would I be bashing them about it and telling them how much they're not getting these things done? It's all like, no, you'd be like, hey, friendo, listen here, homie. We're going to get this done. You know it. I know it. I have confidence in us. We're going to get this done. So, what we're going to do is just take the simplest of things and get that done in the next couple minutes. Like, so let's put our shoes on. Let's go brush our teeth. Let's do a little dance. Make a little love. Get down tonight. And when we do that, we start changing the way we're talking to ourselves. When we start changing the way we're talking to ourselves, we're going to start changing the way we produce output. And all of a sudden, you're feeling a little bit better because you're like, oh, I just had to brush my teeth. Okay, I just had to put my shoes on. I had to brush my teeth. I got that done. Now it's like taking a deep breath and looking around and being like, okay, what's next? For me, like I said, I work for myself. So what I'm doing is completely different than people going into an office. So please adjust to your schedule and adjust to your life. This is for me. I go, okay, well, I'm going to write that script. And I did. And like I said, I walk through it. So I get done the script, right? You get done that first task. And then all of a sudden you're feeling like you are moving. You're feeling that momentum build up. And now that shell, it's shed. You're like, okay, well, now I can take on the rest of it. You might not be operating at 100, right? The juice might not be fully filled again. But you're like, okay, what can I do? For me, that was edit the video. Once you're able to get to the next point, you're good. Then what else is important to you? Because remember, throughout this process, I think it's really, really important to make sure you're filling your tank along the way. And what's really, really important for me is getting outside and getting some movement in, letting some sunlight hit my retinas, letting my body get moving. So I was like, you know what? I'm training for this collaborative 10K at the end of September with my cousin. Whether I'm doing it or not, I'm not sure yet, because I kind of get a lot of anxiety with that stuff because I'm not a runner. If you were to see me stand up, if you were to see, like, you'd be like, that is not a runner's body, right? But that's okay. Pardon me when I take a sip of my smoothie. So I said, just today, what I need to do, my shoes are already on, my shorts and shirt are already on. Let's go out and walk a little bit. So I get a half a mile in and I'm warmed up. I'm like, all right, well, let's start a little bit of a light jog. I didn't stop running for the next 2 miles. And that's not something I typically do. So what is usually just my get out and run, get out and walk or something like that turns into one of my better days because I just showed up. Remember what you're doing. There's this I've mentioned it on other podcast episodes, but we're going to mention it again. It was an Olympic trainer, right? They were talking about the rule of thirds. 25% of the time you have the best workout, the best training session that you can possibly have. 25% of the times, pretty good. You show up, you felt good, you felt like you got some stuff accomplished, awesome. The bottom 25%, you just showed up and you felt awful. Felt like you couldn't do anything right, couldn't get the steps right. You couldn't do anything. Your body was hurting. You felt like, whatever it might be doing, you just didn't have it. It's the rule of thirds. If you are able to do 25%, 25%, and 25%, you are going to complete your training. So some days when you don't feel like you have that juice, like we're talking about, right? That can go into the bottom bucket, the bottom 25%. That bottom 25% isn't a failure. The bottom 25% is necessary to complete your training, to complete your stuff. So remember, you're being productive even when you're not feeling about it. You're being productive when you're just showing up. And showing up looks different for every situation. If you're having anxiety, if you have depression, if you have bipolar, anything that is really a struggle for you to get things going, showing up looks different. Sometimes, like I said, that's getting up and brushing your teeth. Sometimes that's just stepping outside, getting your feet into the grass and grounding yourself. Sometimes that's taking 3 deep breaths, filling up the lungs, getting the airflow moving, getting the blood pumping. It looks different to everybody. So, in a world of social media, in a world of comparison, in a world of we have to be the greatest or we have to be the worst or we have to be anything, remember, our best looks different on each days. If you ever read the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel, um, that's something he mentions. Give your best today, because what your best today might not be your best from yesterday. That could be 30% from yesterday. Could be your best today. So remember, if you were living with depression, if you're living from anxiety, if you're going through grief, anything like this, you are the only comparison you have is to yourself, not to anybody else. We talked about the rule of thirds, right? The bottom 25% is necessary, just like the top 25 and the middle 25 are necessary. We have to show up. And I just read this book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. But it was an updated version of it. And the updated version of it was kind of just to more modernize it, because it was written probably like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it was just a modernized recording for today. All audiobooks on my runs and my walks. So, but one of the coolest things that I read about it was this practice that he had. And it was kind of like a meeting of the minds. It was one of those kind of at the end of every day, before he was falling asleep or as he was closing his eyes, he would bring in the greatest influences in life, whether it was Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, whoever it may be, whoever your top meeting of the minds would be. This is who he would bring in, and he would have a meeting about where he wanted his life to go. Just chat, like what would these people be talking about in this chat, in this meeting? And it wasn't just like a casual meeting; it was like they were there for a purpose. So I kind of adopted a little bit of that. And as we're kind of moving the conversation towards this section of like the meeting of the minds, I want to relate it real quick to how I got here, because that's how it started this morning. I said, okay, what would this meeting tell me today? And it was show up and give it your best today. Your best doesn't have to be the same as yesterday or what it's going to be tomorrow. The best just has to be the best today. So anyway, I showed up, but I want to kind of share this practice with you because I kind of altered it a little bit for myself. What I started doing was I brought in my best self. Some people might call that their highest self, best version of themselves, whatever verbiage you like to use, please insert now. The best version of me is sitting next to me. And I get real detailed with this. What does the best version of me look like? What do his tattoos look like? I have a full sleeve on my right side as my best version of myself. I'm probably a little bit more, I don't want to use the word in shape because I'm very happy with the progress I'm making and the things I'm doing. But I just have this version of how I look and how I feel and stuff like that. So that's what I look like. I am sitting on this mountaintop, right? It's almost like this edge that has a fence. that I can just see these beautiful mountains. And it's always at sunset or sunrise that I'm looking at these things. And it's almost like those big back like lawn chairs that are kind of like plastic. We just kind of sit there. We have hammocks around. Um, I'm telling you the details because I want you to know that this is what it looks like for me. Like I'm getting as detailed as possible because I'm setting the scene. I want to know what it smells like. I want to know what the temperature is like. I want to know what the grass feels like in my feet or on my feet. I want to know who's showing up, and I'll get to who else is on the mountaintop with me. But I think it's important to realize that I'm having conversations with the best version of me, my best self. And those are the most powerful ones so far for me, as I've been practicing this probably for a little bit over a week now. And what I've come to learn is in the first couple of days, it's a little uncomfortable. I spent the first couple of days just trying to get the scene, just learning to almost exist there and not feel like it's pretending. Um, it's like when I get there, I know if I'm the first one there, I almost like know and have this feeling of where my best self is. He's not here yet because he's making eggs. He's making himself a smoothie. He'll be out here in a minute. I'm just the first one to show up. So I might as well just be here and I might as well enjoy the sunset. I'm fully immersed in these moments, right? We talk about whether it be manifesting, whether it be creating your own reality, helping reshape your subconscious mind, all of these things. It comes from this place, right? It comes from the imaginative mind. It comes from this place of creation. That's what this is. So I'm there and my best self will show up and I'll ask all the questions that I'm looking for. I'm looking for answers. I have the answers for me. But the best version of me not only has the answers, but he's not going to give them to me straight away. The best version of me is going to tell me in a way that he knows I'm going to most readily understand it. So today was, I think I called myself Big Chief. I was like, hey, Big Chief, I got a couple questions here, man. I'm not feeling it today. I was like, I am struggling to get up. I'm not feeling so hot. Like, what do you do? And he answered me with a question because all good mental health coaches answer questions with questions. And he said, well, what do you have in the tank today? What's the best you can give today? And I was like, okay, well, the best I can give today is showing up. And a good mental health coach would ask this: what does showing up look like today? Give me a couple examples of what showing up looks like today that you'll be satisfied with. And I was like, okay, what showing up looks like to me and the version of me that'll be satisfied is getting that script and that recording done today, the video edited at some point. And I'd really like to just get outside. That's what showing up looks like to me. And instantly that version of me that's sitting on that mountaintop looking up over the thing, over and staring at the mountains or in the sunset goes, well, what about your podcast? And as I'm having that conversation with myself, he goes, what about the podcast? Was that on your list? And I was like, no. And he's like, okay. Well, did you announce that you were having a podcast? Say you don't have any guests, you don't have anything like that. And he's like, yeah, no, I didn't. He goes, okay. If you get to it, you get to it. You don't, you don't. Don't hold that stress over you. Don't hold that expectation over you. You're just putting that on yourself. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. And for the first time, if I had any coaching clients listening, this would be kind of cool. For the first time, I felt like I was coaching myself, not giving myself advice, not giving myself like just that inner voice. I felt like I was benefiting from a mental health coach. I felt like I was just sitting there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what clients feel. This is what like coaching and therapy and all that stuff. Like I feel so much better after having a conversation with my best self. Because remember, this wasn't me giving me advice. This was me communicating with the best version of me. And it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable to be able to have that kind of connection. And remember, like I said, the first couple of days, I was just setting a scene. I was just existing. There was no showing up to this place and being like, yo, what do you have to tell me? Well, like, let's figure this all out. I was like, no, the best version of me is not in a rush. The best version of me, if he's sitting on the side, like a mountainside with a beautiful sunset with a fence that he can kind of lean over to keep him from the edge and just kind of check it in. And breathe in what feels like fall, crisp air. He's taking that in. He's not rushing anything. He's like, no, we're just here. So at the present version of me, I have to recognize that, right? I'm not going to spoil this man's party. So we're just going to exist together. And don't discount the amount of things you can learn about yourself or learn about others from simply just being present. That was a big lesson of mine. I just showed up. I just had to be there with the best version of me because I watched how he sat. I watched how, if he crossed his legs. I watched when he would get up and go look at the sunset. I I feel like I have this gift where and not just me, I know a lot of people have this where you can tell how someone truly feels by just looking at them. And I would just watch him and I was like, he's at peace. He's in thought. He's centered. He's present. And so then when I see all these things, it becomes really weird because I'm looking at someone else that is me, but it's not me, right? It's the best version of me. It's the projection. So I kind of come back to these moments and I sit, I look, I kind of digest and I go, the craziest thing of all is that is me. I know what he's doing. I know what he's thinking. I know how he's feeling. I know how he's acting. I know that because that is me. While it's not me, that is me. So now we talk about role models, growing up whether parents or coaches or teachers or anybody, you can insert them there. I thought to myself, if I'm having meeting of the minds every night or every morning or anything like that, what I want is my best self. I want him to be present. I want him to show up and just be. I don't want him to lead conversation. I want everyone who comes into these meeting of the minds in my imagination um, comes as they are. Another person that's there, I know I told you I would mention who else shows up. Alan Watts, a great spiritual philosopher. Alan Watts shows up. And I hear him. The first couple days he didn't talk. He just walked around and I don't know what they're called. They almost look like rugs cut out that are over top, not parkas, maybe. I don't know. I'm definitely not getting the name right. He would just walk around. He had sandals on. He was just walking. He was smoking his pipe. And I've read so much and watched so much Alan Watts. I almost tap into him when I ask questions because a lot of times I'll come to the group and I'll be like, what do we think about this? Or I'm looking to help people this way. What do we think about this? Or I'm experiencing this in my life. I don't know how to really interpret it. How do we do it? And Alan Watts gives me guidance. I know it sounds so crazy, but I hear the things he would say in his joking, witty manner, and I laugh. The best version of me laughs. And the more I do these things, the more it's not an imagination anymore. It's just going to a different place. People talk about like timeline jumping and parallel universe, all this stuff. I don't know where I go, but it's somewhere and it's not always here. And I've started getting a lot of clarity through these meetings. And I felt so inclined to share this with people today because um, what I've noticed is it helps. Getting out of my own mind and getting out of my own body sometimes really, really helps. Um, and I'm on this kick, right? Of I see a lot of people feel like they get to a certain place in life, a certain place in their mind, a certain place in their beliefs, or anything like that. And all of a sudden, they feel like they worked so hard that they want to keep everything for themselves. They want to keep all the secrets. They want to keep all the stuff because then they can use it to either make money or they can use it to hold power or hold status or anything like that. And I'm kind like I said, I'm on this kick that when I get there and I find stuff that works, I badly want to share it with so many people. I want to be able to share these moments with everyone. I want people to find what works for them. Like I said, what works for me isn't always what's going to work for you. My thoughts, my beliefs, my insights and stuff isn't for everyone. And I hope not, because otherwise we'd all be the same person. When I find someone disagrees with me, I almost enjoy it because I get the privilege of seeing it from a different point of view. I don't have to defend my thoughts, my beliefs, my feelings, my emotions. They're mine. They're not anyone else's. They're mine. Why would I have to defend them? No one's going to take them. They're mine. So when I find things like this, I want to always offer them and have people think to themselves, how can this adapt to my life? How so I'll even ask you right now is if you're having a meeting of the minds, maybe your inspiration of people, whether it be authors, athletes, past or present, who shows up for you? Could be your spirit guides, could be the best version of yourself, it could be your grandparents, it could be your mother. They, like I said, they can still be here. They could be great grandparents, who knows? But who shows up? Because when you're able to start really diving into that space, you start to realize something that's a little strange. Start to realize that time and space are made up. You can go anywhere, anytime, with anyone. Um, the physical reality starts to fade a little bit when you're in these moments. Just like think about dreaming. How real do dreams feel until they don't feel real anymore? That's how these moments are starting to feel. The better I'm getting at this imagery, this visualization technique that I've been trying to practice, because I think it's so important when we can learn to visualize and we can learn to use imagery, we learn how to create. So if you're looking to better friendships, or if you're looking to surround yourself with better people, what do those people look like? What do those people act like? How do those people treat you? What do those people speak like? Because once you're able to define those things, it's going to be a lot easier to notice them when they show up. So if you're in the process of maybe redefining your circle, redefining the people you allow to have influence in your life, which I always recommend, is the people you surround yourself with are the sum of who you are. You become that. So if you're in the middle of that, right, what do those people look like? Do they have your best interest in mind? I hope so. Do they cheer for you when you have minor success? I hope so. Are they there just to support, give you a hug, maybe be a lending ear or a shoulder to cry on when you're having a tough day, a tough go of it? I hope so. Because if those defining factors are what you're looking for, you will find them because you're letting your subconscious mind know. And you're creating the visualization and the imagery of what this looks like. It will create and it will manifest itself. It's not going to be pulled out of thin air. You're just going to now become aware of it. And you're also going to become blatantly aware of the ones you don't want. You're going to be very aware of the people in your life that maybe have ran course. My mother says this all the time. I didn't know it was from something. I just thought it was my mom's infinite wisdom, which she does have infinite wisdom. Um, Sometimes people are in your life, or everyone comes into your life for a season, a reason, and a lifetime. So even when it feels like friendships or relationships or family members, whatever it may be, have run its course, think of season, reason, and a lifetime. Because when those relationships turn sour, you can find that they were there for a season. And oftentimes you'll find, what was this reason? What did they teach me about myself? What did they teach me about what I'm looking for in others? What did they teach me that I'm looking for in myself? Um, we get a, we're lucky. If we're lucky, we get a handful of lifetimes. Um, but a season, a reason, a lifetime. So when we go through with these phases in our lives, and we don't have to just be people, it can be things, it can be places. I lived in Colorado for a time, and it was like a little less than a year, and I felt like I lived there for like 10 years, but it was a little less than a year. And I was there for a season and a reason. It was a place. The season was growth. The reason was running. I was running away from the patterns that I was creating. the toxic patterns, mental behaviors, the toxic thoughts, the destructive, self-destructive thoughts. I had to go on an adventure. Um, so that was a season and a reason. Now in my mind, Colorado will be a lifetime because it taught me a lifetime worth of lessons that maybe I didn't fully get 1 or 2 years after. I'm still learning lessons from those times. So think back to those people or those things that have stopped by for a season, taught you a reason, and will leave you a lifetime of lessons that will continue to peel back like an onion, that will continue to work through the tough times, the good times. Things will happen in your life, and it will be up to you to choose the perspective in which you look at them. In my coaching sessions, I always say it's just like putting on a set of prescription glasses, right? What prescription are we putting on today? Because it doesn't always have to be sunshine and rainbows. That is a challenge in itself. Because when you're always trying to look through sunshine and rainbows perspective or prescription, the days you can't, you feel like you don't have it, you're a failure. That's a really dangerous game to play. So what I've learned through, like I said, Alan Watts, who shows up at my meeting of the minds on a nightly basis, or when he feels called to come, being present is the only thing you can do. So if you're having a rough go of it right now, in this exact moment, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're tuned in on TikTok Live for the podcast, and you're saying, "Oh yeah, today's one of those days. That's why I'm on here. That's why I'm listening." You caught me at how do I do shit when I don't feel like doing shit. Remember, it's a lot of the times when we don't feel great, it's because we want to feel anything but this feeling. That's anxiety. Anxiety and panic. If you have that, raise your hand. Anxiety and panic disorder, right? I've come. This is not a medical diagnosis or a medical thing. What I've learned is when I want to be anywhere but here, that's a panic attack, right? I'm in the middle of having a panic attack, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I wish I could just feel normal again. I wish blah blah blah. I am projecting myself to be somewhere else where I physically cannot be. Mentally, I can be there, but the reason I'm having these attacks is because my limbic system is all out of whack. My mind, my brain, and my body are not operating on the same wavelength. So, what I'm learning is okay, I feel like shit right now. That's okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to feel like shit. I'm not going to run from this. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a grace period here. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. I don't know. I don't need to put a time limit on it, but I'm going to give myself a grace period here just to feel this because this emotion, this feeling, it's coming up for a reason. That, like, as much as we want to think they just come out of nowhere, it's not how it works. Anxiety comes from the amygdala listening to your body and saying you are in danger. Now, your mind is saying, I am in a beautifully lit office recording a podcast and I'm grooving, baby. But that little amygdala that doesn't understand sarcasm, doesn't understand language, doesn't understand anything but really cortisol and adrenaline, what it's doing is it's reading your body and saying, no, your body thinks you're fighting lions. So we're going to send out all the cortisol we can, all the adrenaline we can to help you fight these lions. It doesn't receive any other information. It just sits there and it's like, that's it. So when we get to these points, it's remembering, I'm just going to be here. My body thinks we're fighting lions. Let it fight lions. I can't be anywhere else right now. So I'm going to do that. And then once you start becoming at peace with that, becoming present, becoming grounded, that's why I'll always suggest, if you can, is getting outside. Is getting outside, putting your feet in the grass, and starting to create a little bit of dissonance on that those raised cortisol levels. What you're going to do is try to connect to the Earth's frequency, which I believe is 7.63 hertz. If you're listening to this and you're like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Well, I don't have the stats up. But I do believe it's 7.63 hertz. So what you're doing is taking the frequency at which you are operating at, and the Earth's natural frequency, when your feet connect to it, there is actual science that shows it changes the biology and changes the frequency at which you're operating. So you're literally getting out and you're starting to get a little bit better. Um, and for those who say like I'm full of cortisol all the time, yep, our raised level of cortisol. But I will tell you this, something that I found massive in my healing journey of anxiety and panic disorder. We only can produce so much adrenaline at one time. And I had an amazing guest on here not too long ago, and she mentioned that Dr. Irina Campbell, that's who it was. And she said, at a time, our body will just produce 2 minutes worth of adrenaline. That's what it does. Now, we'll feel the after effects, but remember, this panic attack, this adrenaline attack, this anxiety attack has to end. Like, has to end. So when we try to be anywhere else but here, we're almost prolonging that. But what we're going to do is we're just going to sit there and be like, all right back to season, a reason, in a lifetime. What's this season? What's this reason? I haven't been present all freaking day. Maybe now I have to be present in what feels like the worst possible time to be present. But remember, it's that those rose-colored glasses, that rose-colored perspective, prescriptions, sunshines and rainbows, all of those things. When you want to be there and you're not there, that's okay. Meet yourself where you are. One of my health and wellness coaches at one of my old jobs, who is a mentor of mine, told me that I met her when I was probably 24, 25. I'm 35 now. When I met her for lunch, probably a little bit less than a year ago, she said, yeah, no, at that time, Ben, you were a special kid. You had perspective, you had all these things, but I could only meet you where you were. You weren't where you are now. You don't have the perspective you have now, the experience you have now. I can only meet you where you were at 24, 25. You had life lessons to learn. I can't spoil those life lessons because unfortunately you got to go through them yourself. And when she said the phrase, I could only meet you where you are, something clicked. I started looking at myself. I was like, well, I can only meet me where I am. Where am I? Where am I right now? And I go, wow, that's a powerful perspective, right? So when you're having one of those days, maybe like I said, that might be today. That might be why you stopped scrolling or you stopped to listen or you saw a post and you're like, yeah, I need to learn how to do shit when I don't feel like doing shit. Think to yourself, where am I? Where can I meet myself today? And I talked about in those meeting of the minds, the big lesson I learned is what does showing up look like today? Because what showing up looked like yesterday, that was yesterday's business. I don't have any business going back to yesterday. Today is today. So what does success and showing up look like today? For me, as previously mentioned, that was recording and editing a video today for the Nickerson Institute, who is sponsoring this podcast, by the way. And then I was like, okay, well, I also want to get outside. I want to move. That would be a great success today. If I got outside, that would be me showing up. Cool. What happened was I got that video done and then I got outside all before I started my podcast. So that is 3 things that were overwhelming weights on my shoulder this morning that almost caused me not to get out of bed. It was causing me to feel physically ill and not want to move. Because you know when the mind starts going, right? The mind starts telling you, you're sick. You can't do this. Nope, you're starting to get sick. You can't. And then my internal dialogue goes, no, the more you say you're sick, the more you say you're feeling sick, the more sick you'll become. Watch the words that you're saying. No, Ben, your body is healing itself. Your body's just working a little bit harder right now to help heal you. No, Ben, you got this. No, Ben, what is success? And then all of a sudden, I got here, right? This day could have been drastically different. And that would have been okay. But remember how you speak to yourself and the perspective and the lenses you look through, all because I identified what success looks like. And I heard it from the best version of me. that beautiful meeting of the minds. I should call it like the mountainside meeting of the minds. That's what it was. And I was coached by the best version of me. And I sat there, I was like, damn, my clients are lucky. I say that in jest, but I do. I'm just as lucky to have them. So sometimes it's just a matter of being able to connect with that best version of you, being able to chat that best version of you and not predict the answers. Don't tell you yourself what is, listen to what that best version of you said. Like in a coaching call, right? One of the first things we'll talk about on the first call is we want to define what the best version of you is, looks like, smells like, acts like. Listen, what music do they listen to? What shows? What content? All of these things. Designing you to get out of your head. Designing you to think, I'm in service of this best version of me. Sometimes that's where people put their faith. That might be in God, the universe, anything else, right? Whatever you connect with. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that service look like? And for me, I'm finally breaking through myself and learning how to do that. I'm finally breaking through and not predicting what that best version of me says, but I actually ask questions and I listen. I'm connecting to it. It's a conversation. I feel one with it. So then before I get on the coaching calls, I always set the intention to have a safe space, a place, a healing space, a place for my highest and best self to connect with my client's best version and highest self. I ask for that communication to come through me. I ask for that to be able to be the best communication I can to the client. I want to be able to convey what their best self is saying to my best self that comes to me. There's this big trinity of healing, right? And what I've learned through all this is I can connect to that best version of me because I've created a relationship with him. I've been able to connect and I go, oh, this isn't some foreign feeling. This isn't like I'm just making it up. I literally connect. I literally am like, oh, no, no, no. This is what he says. This is what he does. This is what he feels. This is what he thinks. This is the clothes he wears. These are the tattoos he has. These are all of those things. And yes, he still wears a backwards hat. He's still trying to help people, but he's so much more present. He's so much more in alignment. There's a calmness to this version of me, right? There's a calmness. There's a stillness. When I speak with him, he isn't thinking of being other places. He's only here. He doesn't find it necessary to talk all of the time, which says something as I'm on a podcast, right? Doesn't find it necessary to talk. He just likes to be present and listen and be there for people. And it's not always through words. And I know that now. I see that. I am that. Because like I said, that best version of me is me. And just this connection is that trail of treats to help me get there. How do we close this out, right? I could talk forever about this meeting of the minds. Maybe I'll bring it up at tonight's nightly meeting. Mountainside meetings. What we're starting to do is take baby steps. Small steps create big change. It doesn't feel like it. We get so caught up in the big picture. We get so caught up that we have to get all this done today. We have to solve the world's problems. We have to solve all of our problems. We have all of this stuff. What can you do right now in this exact moment? Who can you speak with that might be able to help? Who can you surround yourself with that's going to support you? Tell you when you may be acting out of alignment with your best self. Who's going to keep you accountable? Because all of these things go into our direction, our purpose, right? I can't surround myself with people that are not in alignment with helping others. I can't align myself with hate. It's just not who I am. It's not where I'm going. And Alex Hermosi. I saw one of his reels today, and he was saying something like, when you start growing, people will ask, "Oh, do you think you're better than me? Oh, do you think that I that this and that, blah blah blah? You think you can't do this?" Blah, blah. What happens when you just go, "Yeah"? We don't operate on the same playing field anymore. It doesn't mean I'm better than you, but we ain't the same anymore. When you just answer yes, it's kind of wild. So when you're moving through stages of your life, whether that be with people or through places or things, um, and all these imagination or literal, maybe actual conversations you're having with people, and they say all these things, maybe you just stand your ground and you go, "Yep, I've moved on. I've moved on." People will say their things. People will try to bring you back down and operate on their frequency. Baby, I changed the station. I'm 1029. You're 1011. Both play music, but my station isn't playing your music anymore. And that's okay. That's okay. But don't get me to change that station. You're off my presets. And they say, "What, you think you're better than me?" Oh, well, all of these things. I don't think I'm better than you, but I don't think I hang around with you anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. It seems like you're the one that's hanging on to it. It seems like you're the one that has a problem with it. It seems the one that you're the judgmental one. I'm not. I'm not. We're good. If you were to be in the service of helping people, and this is something I've come to like when it's like, "Oh, you've changed." Yeah, we're supposed to. If I was the same version of me as I was at 23, there'd be a problem. I wouldn't be growing. I wouldn't be evolving. I wouldn't be becoming the best version of myself, connecting with the best version. I wouldn't be along this journey. I would be stagnant. I chose to start watering myself. I started to grow. Maybe I had to change the soil in because I was reaching I had to change the soil that I was planting. You had to pick me up, you had to move me. Go put me into some more sunlight. I required more sunlight because I was getting bigger. So if you don't surround yourself with people that water you, change the environment, because unlike plants, we have the choice to change our environment, our attention. Because some people ask me, "Well, I can't change my physical environment. What do I do?" Change your mental environment. Change the things you focus on. Change the things you give your attention to. Change the thing you spend your times with. You say, "Well, I can't." Yes, 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 you can. You're already doing it. If you're listening to this, you're choosing to listen to this. You're choosing to be mindful. You're choosing to be thoughtful, hopefully helpful to yourself. I would like to think that's something that my podcast and my content does. It helps people. I hope you're making those choices. So make more of those choices. When you're scrolling through your phone and you start seeing stuff that makes you, whether it be the news or whether it be drama, whether it be celebrity, whatever stuff, if it makes you feel like you don't have your attention inward anymore, you have the ability to press unfollow or to mute, come back later when you're in a more stable mindset. That's okay too. But remember, your attention and your time are currency. You pay with your attention and you spend your time. What you spend time on, you will get an equal investment in, or equal return on your investment. So if you're spending it on drama and then you start having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, you're getting your equal return on investment because that's where your body's operating at. If you start seeing your panic and anxiety attacks go down because you're starting to listen to more mindful podcast or content, or maybe you're doing some mental health coaching with somebody like you, self plug. But if you start seeing those things, you're getting an equal return on investment because you're putting not only your time, your attention, and your money into you opposed to into others. And when that happens and you are committed to you, I will say that to anybody I speak with. And before we actually start talking and coaching, I say you have to be committed and consistent with yourself. If you are not, I will promise you, you are wasting money, you are wasting your time, and you are wasting your attention. Not wasting mine because I get paid for my time. I always am bettering myself with my attention. And time is never wasted if I've spent it helping somebody or trying to help somebody. Because say you're not ready, say you're not consistent, say you're not committed. That's not a reflection to me. Maybe I was helping plant that seed for you to water it later. Maybe you just needed a little bit of exposure to realize I'm not ready yet. This guy, I can't meet this guy on his level because I'm not there yet. And that's okay. But I can always say, when you are ready, I promise you, we will get you there. I am fortunate enough to work with some amazing people. And what I've learned is the thing that gets people there, it's not no magic pill. It's not anything. It's we chat, we put together a plan that works for you. You take ownership of that plan and you implement it. And you are truthful, honest, and vulnerable on our calls because when we chat or when I chat with my clients, what happens, as I always like to say, it's like when you're having those deep chats in the back patio with your friends at like 2 a.m. on those summer nights, maybe having a couple cocktails, a couple drinks, maybe smoking a joint, whatever, those deep conversations I'm talking about. That's what I feel like my coaching sessions are like. And those moments you get to be vulnerable, open, and honest. It's not so much what the other people say. It's what you say, what you let come out of you. You know how much wisdom, no one gets you better than you. What coaching, therapy, or surrounding yourself with the right people, what that will do is bring out that inner wisdom. What that does is you start to unlock things that have been buried deep inside you. And when you're surrounded by the right people, talking to the right people, they don't take credit for that. They give you all the credit, right? There's nothing that I will ever take credit for other than holding a safe space, allowing people to be vulnerable, allowing people to talk about the things that they feel they cannot talk about anywhere else. I hold a place where there's no judgment, hold a place where it's comfortable. We can joke, we can laugh, we can curse, we can swear. Because when we're talking about serious things, the last thing you want to do is talk to someone who feels like they're sitting on a pedestal, sitting on their throne, right? There's nothing worse than that. I can attest to that. And that's the same way when you talk with friends, when you talk to just the right people. So if you're going through a little bit today, like I know today's chat started with how do we do shit when we don't want to do shit? And we kind of went full circle. If this was a board game, it would have been Candyland. We were up, down, and around, but I love this. I love having podcast episodes where I don't have an outline, right? When I don't have guests, I like to just kind of speak from the heart, speak about what I'm going through because it's all in the name. I am just somebody like you. We are going through such similar journeys, different events, but similar emotions. And when we can share that together, that's what brings me joy, is helping people. So if you're ever looking for someone to chat with or talk to or whatever, I do mental health coaching. I love what I do. I love the connections I make with people. You can visit www.somebodylikeyou.org. That is my website. And I'm thinking about actually doing, if you are a parent and your kids are going back to school, I want to do 25% off coaching calls. 25% all hour-long coaching calls for you. Like I said, you can visit somebodylikeyou.org. I want to be able to help as much as I can. I know sometimes back to school can be tough for people. Also, maybe you get a little bit of extra time. Maybe you get a little bit extra time on your hands, or you do have a little bit, an hour for yourself. You get an hour to kind of give back and fill up your tank. So that's something you're looking for. Somebodylikeyou.org. And if you're looking to help others, if you're looking to kind of play a role in this healing journey, something I always suggest is when you find a video or you find a podcast or you find something that's helpful to you, remember to share it with somebody you think of. Maybe tag them in the video. One, if it's my video, that helps me, get a little bit of spread. I get to help more people fulfilling my goals. But not everybody is content creators. Not everybody wants or has the capacity to do that. But sometimes what we can do is just share the video to a story, share the video to a friend or a text message or anything like that. Because remember, the videos you share and the friends that connects with, that's almost letting them know that you care about them. That's one way to start tuning into that same radio station we're talking about. I just want to thank everybody who tuned in. I want to thank everybody who listened to the podcast. I want to thank my circle. I want to thank, my mastermind meetings on the mountainside, because I love being able to have these chats with you because, as we say, I am just somebody like you. And I love everybody who I'm able to help, all of those who I'm going to be helping in the future, and all of those who are on their own journey. I thank you. So until we chat next time, I will catch you when I catch you. I love you and have an amazing rest of your day. Chat soon. See ya.